Just sit straight up in your seats and close your outer eyes.
Mhm.
Open your inner eyes. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. And in this space of peace and relaxation, I am at peace with myself. Let us affirm that together and feel it. I am at peace with myself. And in this peaceful state, our minds are open, receptive, and ready to learn. Let us affirm that together. My mind is open, receptive, and ready to learn. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. So it is. All right, today we have a super treat. We have Don Lovell from Barbados, who is sharing a very, very powerful message. We were talking about it yesterday, and I think every one of us is experiencing this message and living this message. The seasons of life. Everything grows in across its season and its rhythms. And once you figure out the seasons of life and where you fit in, nothing is impossible. So Dawn, author, speaker, customer service expert, take it away.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harris. Good morning. Good morning to everyone. Good morning, Mastermind Group. For those of you that are watching, for those of you that will watch this, I welcome you. Thank you for being in this space with us, this space of growth, evolution, transformation. It's so exciting to be here. Thank you so much, Dr. Harris, for this opportunity to be on your platform. I do not take this lightly. And I thank you for permitting me to grow along with you, to grow under you. And I'm very grateful today. And I thank you for that meditation, because today I think is a very introspective day. And we know that, every time we have these sessions, we come in and there's such richness, there's such depth in these sessions. There's so much to learn, there's so much inspiration, there's so much motivation. And I know I can speak from all of us when I say we go away from here with something that we can use, we can implement, and we can help the evolution of our lives and the transformation that we want to bring to others. And when I thought about this topic, the seasons of life, I looked at my own life and I said, life is such an interesting, I'll call it episode. Life is so very interesting. When we go through life, there are different seasons, there are different stages. And I want us to refer to the introduction of Dr. Harris's book, The 12 Universal Laws of Success. If you haven't got that book as yet, you need to have it. If there are people in your life that do not have that book or access to that book, you need to purchase one and share it with them, because this book is such a rich book. This book contains so much wisdom. And in this book, I was going through the different stages of life. And, Dr. Harris puts it so eloquently, when he talks about the 4 stages of life. And if you permit me, I'm just going to go through those a bit, because today is going to be a little different. And I implore you to just, wherever you are, just be settled, be present, be focused, because I think this is going to be another point of transformation or transition for all of us. So the first stage Dr. Harris mentions in the book is called the education stage. And this is usually up to like 25 years of age. And in my own interpretation, that's when you're like a sponge. You're taking in everything, you're absorbing everything in your environment, the things that are around you. As the book says, you develop your attitude, your self-image. And that's usually based on how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you see your world. Then we move on to the second stage, which is the stage of emotion, sensation, and experience. And I want you to journey with me because people on here might be at different stages of their life. I know, I think I can assume the stage the majority of persons are in, but even as other persons listen to this, there may be persons in different stages. And the second stage, where we talk about emotion and sensation and experiences, where we're experiencing life. And that usually runs from between, 40 to 50 or 25, well, 20 to 40 or 25 to 50, around that age. And that's if for most of us that has passed that stage, we know that's where you're experiencing life. That's where you're living. You're making these big life decisions. And, most of the time when you make decisions in this stage, these are decisions that will go with you for the rest of your life. The great thing about this stage as well, though, is that you can still course correct. And there's still some things that if you messed up in this stage, you can still go back and correct them. But when you start to get to a little more advanced stage, I call it advanced, which is the third stage, the stage of power. And I love how the book explains this stage because if you look at page 29 of the book, I have it here with me, the 12 universal laws of success. And I'm saying, we need to bring this book with us when we're having our vibrant discussions, because there's such great reference in this book. And on page 29, it said you should master the basics and master your appetites and emotions by this stage. So that's the third stage, the stage of power. And that usually runs from about 40 to 60 or 50 to 75, around that age. And it talks about mastering the skill of multiplying your powers through the efforts of others. It's also the stage where you're forced to repeat the lessons that you should have mastered in the previous stage but did not. My goodness. This book, I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning. I got up at 3:29. What am I doing up at 3:29 on a Saturday morning? I don't know, but that's the time that the Spirit talks to me. And I had to get good clarity on where I was going to go with this message, because even though I knew the title, I was not sure the direction. I was not sure how to articulate it. I wasn't sure how to communicate this message. And I really had to go within and I had to sit with myself. First, ask myself, Dawn, what stage are you in? Secondly, and to look back at the other stages that I might have come through and ask myself, how have you managed those stages? How have you experienced those stages of your life? And this sent me down the proverbial rabbit hole, because as I started, it just came and it just flowed. So what I'm talking to you today is really an extension of the experience I had this morning with my own self, the talk that I had with myself. And then it talks about your fourth stage. And again, in your third stage, which pretty much is the stage I'm in as well, that power stage, and it also said in that stage, there is still some correction that you can make. You can course correct. But the thing about that stage is that you have to be able to understand the things that you can still attain that may not have passed in the stages before, because it's not everything that you can course correct. It's not everything that can be restored in this age or stage. And then we have the fourth stage, and that's the immortality stage. And that's why I find this so beautifully broken down, because it says to each and every one of us that there's a time and there's a season and there's stages of our lives, and none of those stages are irrelevant. All of those stages have something to offer. All of those stages, there's an experience to be gained. And this fourth stage, which is called, Dr. Harris calls it the immortality stage, this only happens, it says, when you've mastered the power stage. And this usually runs, if you're between the ages of 60, 75 to 75, 100, then you understand really what this is, because you've had the life experiences, you've been through some other stages. The unfortunate thing about this stage, though, is that this stage, you should have made certain contributions to the world already. You should have brought some others along with you. Your contributions to the world, to humanity, to your family. These are the things that need to outlive you in this stage. Because if we be honest, at this stage, we know chronologically our time on earth is going to start to diminish. We know that. That's the reality. We will not live forever physically in the physicality of this space. We can live on forever, however, in the realms and the dimensions of time where people, can glean from what we left on this earthly legacy that we've built. And the thing is that most people have what we call this lifespan. That says we're promised 70, so about 70 years we're promised on this earth, and most people have this life plan. The thing is about it though, some of us have been privileged to be able to go through the stages of life in a shorter lifespan. So this is just on average for most of the persons that might be listening to me today. Now, here are the things that we need to pay attention to. Now, one is, in each stage, there are what are called seasons of life. And what is a season? And this is my personal definition that I wrote down this morning as led by the Spirit. My definition is a season is an allotment of time that is to produce a particular outcome that is critical for that part of your development and evolution. So say that again. And I need to write that down so I can remember it. It says, a season is an allotment of time that is to produce a particular outcome that is critical to your development and your evolution. So I want to say to you, as you start to look at these stages of life that I've broken down, whether you be in the first stage, 0 to 25, you're in the second stage, you're around 40, 50, 60, you're in your third stage, up to about 75 years old, or whether you are in your fourth stage, which can run up to 100 years old. It is important to understand the season of the stage that you are in and to align yourself with your season, because that's going to be important. We understand seasons in the natural. We know that in the dead of winter, you're not going to wear spaghetti straps. We know that. We understand that in the heat of summer, you're not going to go out with a winter jacket. It's important for us to understand seasons. And there's a good book that I love, and it says, there's a time for everything. And for everything, there is a season. A season for every activity under heaven, a season to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up. And it goes through all of these different seasons. That's why we have to understand our seasons. And who understands seasons better than a farmer? And I want to say to you, we have to see ourselves as farmers of our own lives. Farmers understand when to plant, when not to plant. They also understand what needs to be planted in what season. Many of us are going through life and we do not understand the season that we're in. And because of that, we're planting things that should not be planted in this season, or we are not planting what we should, or we are reaping when it's not a season, or we're trying to reap, because we're not going to be able to reap unless we planted. We're trying to reap something, or we're looking for a harvest when nothing has been planted, or we planted in the wrong season, or, strangely enough, we've come through a process and we thought we were planting, but we didn't nurture the things we were planting. We didn't nurture our seeds. We didn't nurture our visions. We didn't nurture our goals. We didn't water them. We didn't give them enough sunlight. We didn't give them enough positivity. And now we're looking for a harvest. And you're saying, where's my harvest? But either you didn't plant or you didn't nurture, you didn't water. So it's important for us to look at our lives and understand the season that we are in. You know, another thing we have to look at our lives, and I thought it was so profound when I sat and I thought about it. You know, every crop is going to have some kind of a pest that's going to attack it. It's going to have a pest. And you have to know, that's why you have to know your season. Because if you're going to plant tomatoes, you got to know there's a particular pest that's going to attack potatoes, carrots, whatever you're planting. There may be a specific adversary, a specific pest, a specific annoyance that is going to directly attack that crop. What is your season and what are you planting? What is your season or are you about to reap? What is your season? Is this a time for you to stay still? Is this a time for you to move faster? You have to understand what season and stage of life you're in. And some of these seasons, they can overlap particular stages. There may be seasons where you might have to be working in your business and you're putting in 12, 16, how many hours a night, a day? Because that's the season, because there's a wave that you're riding. There are things that are happening that you have to understand. This is where I need now to dig deep and plow in. There may be seasons where you have to say, you know what, my family needs me. And if my family needs me at this point, I have a wayward child, I have a child going through this, I have a husband that might be ailing, I have this happening in my life, my family needs me. Therefore, I'm going to have to pull, but I can't do 16 hours as an entrepreneur. So maybe I need to build a team. I can't do 16 hours because my family needs me. My children need me. So what season are you in? Now, as I said, you have to be careful and you have to understand what is going to attack your crop. Because that's going to determine, and that's why research and preparation are so very important. You have to know you. Because you got to know how to prepare for that season. What does that season of my life require? What do I have to shed? What do I have to take on? What are the activities that I need to do? What are the thought processes that I need to have? Because in those seasons, you have to understand that those seasons, every season has a purpose. As we go back, they say there's a time for everything under the sun. There's a purpose for everything that's happening in your life right now. What is this season of your life supposed to produce? Another important aspect is understanding what it is when that season has ended. You know, and did you experience the fullness of that season? Whoa, boy, this was a tough one for me. Because when I reflected on my life, I said, my goodness, I think I stayed in a season too long. I think I was attached to a season for too long. Even though chronologically my stages of life had shifted, I was still in the mindset that I was in a season prior. And that can be detrimental to your growth, to your evolution. It can be detrimental to those around you. So we have to know when a season has ended, you know, and in that season, even when it's ended, you need to look back and you need to say, did I get a full harvest? Was I able to get a full yield? Did my harvest, did my crop yield as much as it could have in that season? You know, if I planted those carrots, if I planted 2 beds of carrots, did I get two seeds or seedlings, however you plant them? Did I get 2 beds of carrots? What was the yield in that season? What were the lessons in that season? Let's not forget, there are critical lessons in every season. Are we being introspective? What were the relationships that were supposed to be built? Here on Success Mentorship, we are building out these relations. We're meeting new people. We're having wonderful experiences. We're, developing those connections. Who are your divine connections? Because the fact that you're here now, it means that there's some people that you didn't meet before in other stages of your life that God knows you needed to meet now. Are you maximizing those relationships? And are you adding to those relationships? Because it's not just what you can get out, but how are you serving those relationships better? One of the largest issues, the biggest issues I have, and it is a sore spot for me, is that we have created a world where people do not know how to treat each other. And when persons talk about customer service, I am a customer service expert, service excellence expert. I don't like to restrain it just to customer service because people have an idea that customer service is just about a business transaction. It's not. It is how do we treat to each other? It's how we treat to ourselves. And fundamentally, the systemic issue I'm seeing us have all over the world is that we do not know how to treat each other. We do not know how to be respectful of each other's perspective. We do not know how to agree to disagree. We've lost that. And we're about to throw the bathwater and the baby out because we feel somehow, and there may be a disconnect between the older generation and the younger. So we believe that newer is better. My goodness, what a travesty that would be, because the lessons and the wisdom that are in the underbelly of the older generation, the wisdom is what these young ones need. Because at some point they're going to grow up and they're going to recognize that new does not always mean better. There's some fundamental principles and lessons that they need to learn, the lesson of resilience, the lesson of understanding how to come through slavery and still make it, the lessons of how to have 10 children and you have just one amount that can feed one, but you know to take and expand it and feed a whole family. You don't always have $1 million in your bank account. Anyways, that's my little aside there, because you can tell I'm passionate about these things. So as we advance in these stages of our life, some of the seasons may look a little different. You may experience another winter. You may have had winter in your second stage, when you were about 20, 25, 30, something might have happened and you experience winter, you experience darkness. But when you come into your third stage, also expect that there may be some darkness and there may be some winter, but it might look very different. What seems to be a crisis when you're 20, at 50, you're like, oh my goodness. Like, I'm looking at these young people, I'm like, my goodness, they're having a collapsion. The whole world is falling apart. They're having emotional breakdowns. Everybody's depressed. And why are you depressed? Well, because someone didn't like my post on social media. Someone said something about me. I don't even know that person. That person doesn't know me, but our whole life has become a travesty because of something. And at 50, you're like, you know what? I don't care what nobody says. I've already come through the criticism. I'm grounded in who I am. But at 50, you may be dealing with a sickness. So understand that these things look differently at different stages and different seasons. Seasons may overlap. Again, I believe I'm in my third season. And it's not just because of my age, but it's because I've now become aware. The third season is the power season. And it was also weird that I stayed in stage 2 for a bit too long. And if I had stayed any longer like a caterpillar in the process of metamorphosis, and I didn't come out of that cocoon, I would not have been able to fly. I would have severely damaged my wings, or I might have died there. Let's make sure we are not dying in the stage before we're about to become our butterfly. So I want to say to me, even as I'm speaking, this is deep for me. I hope that the impact, the revelation of this will cause you to really search your soul and ask yourself the question. It's not necessarily about the activity that you're doing. It is about the awareness. It is about the understanding. So one of the things I will ask you could do, as I've asked myself and I've written down, pay attention. Pay attention. This is not the time to be involved in other people's business. And I say that with all respect. Other people will try to get you involved in their drama. Other people have their lives that are happening, and they may try to draw you in. But you need to be so focused. And I'm not saying don't help people, but understand that you need to be paying attention. You can't afford to be distracted in your seasons of life. You may miss an opportunity. You may miss a sign. You may miss a signal. Sometimes they're so fleeting. The spirit might say something to you, idea might drop. And you know, this is one of the challenges I have. I'm always like, I'm a bereft of ideas. Things drop. I like, okay, Dawn, you can speak on that, this topic, that topic, and they flow to me like water. If I do not write it down in the moment, it may be 10 seconds later and I cannot remember it. And at that point, it seems so important, so potent. Yes, Dawn, if you speak on this, this is something that you can do to transform. This is something that people need to hear. This is something that you need to explain, to express. This is something that has some value. But I didn't take the time to write it down. Imagine if you're caught up in somebody else's business, somebody else's drama. Those little tokens that are being revealed to you, you may miss them. Imagine that farmer that's not checking his crop. He's looking over at the other farmer's crop. Hey, what's going on over there, Farmer Brown? And when he comes back, the pests have eaten his crop. So let's be careful. Number 2, look for signs of the season. With each stage, you know, just as there's an autumn and there's a summer and there's a spring, there are signs that tell you. You start to see for autumn, we don't have that in Barbados. We have the dry and the wet season. You know, we have hurricane season. We don't have spring, we don't have autumn, but I know from traveling to the US and I've been there in autumn and it's absolutely beautiful. When I see the trees and the leaves are turning color, I said, this is amazing. I've seen them yellow, vibrant orange, burnt orange. I've seen them dark purples. I said, this is wonderful. There are signs. The spirit will always give you signs of what's about to come. So you need to be alert. You need to be always looking. This is why you cannot be distracted. You need to prepare. What season is it for you? Right now in the US, you guys are talking about elections. Wow, it's the election season. My goodness, and everybody's up in arms. I've been watching it from over here, you know, in times gone by, you know, when much wasn't happening and stuff like that, and we were seeing a lot of things on the news. We used to call it the silly season. I think it's still the silly season, even though, and I don't want to belittle any of the conversations or the dialogues that are being had, because these are critical decisions that have to be made. But sometimes our focus is on the wrong thing. So let's be aware of our season. What is it for you? What does it mean? What is the cost? 3, count the cost. Count the cost. What is it going to require of me? Am I prepared? Do I have the resources? Have I built the relationships? Do I have the stamina and the resilience? I always applaud Dr. Harris. I said, Dr. Harris, I do not know. How are you doing all these things in this season of your life? But it's because he was prepared. There are things that he would have done in prior seasons that if he hadn't done now, even something as simple as taking care of your health. My goodness, can you imagine? If you don't have health, how are you going to execute your legacy? Physically, you can't. So count the cost. What is necessary? If you're going to build a house, you're going to sit down and you're going to look, you're going to get an architect. You're going to ask them, okay, what can I get for this amount of money? You're going to look and see, do I have the money? Can I borrow the money? Can I repay the money? You have to count the cost. Fourthly, expect the best, but prepare for the worst. In every season of your life, we are positive, you know, we have great expectations, but always know that there is the possibility that something can happen. And if we're not prepared, if mentally we're not prepared for that, it will take us off guard. You have to understand the stage you're in and the season. and the fact that some of these things can happen out of season and out of stage. Yes, so we have to be very careful. Store up. Store up. And I say store up because we've been hearing about the pandemic came, and there were things that we didn't have, and we weren't ready, and things seem to be going a bit south. I'm not going to be negative, but let's be honest. You're hearing things. We're hearing about wars and rumors of war. Store up. Store up on money. Store up on positivity. Store up on your relationships. Spend time cultivating good relationships. Store up on your kindness. You know why? Because it says, whatsoever a man soweth, he shall reap. And if you store up in a time where you don't need it, when you do need it, it will be there for you. It will be there for you. That positive mindset, those positive thoughts, those are the ones going to help you bring you through those difficult times. Next, be a student. Serve others. That's why you have to know and you have to be in tune. There is a time to serve. There's a time to serve others. Seek out their knowledge, understanding, and their wisdom. This is why I have a fundamental issue with what I'm hearing. Young people feel like they can disregard the older generation. We're the Gen Zs, and we're the millennials, and the Gen X's, and the baby boomers are no longer relevant. No, you have to be a student. You have to serve. There's information that you need that you don't have, and it can't be spat out by Chat GPT. Hey, that's another topic. Expect some losses and be okay with being quote unquote a failure. I was one of those persons that I was a perfectionist. If it wasn't perfect, I wasn't doing it. If the video wasn't right, I wasn't doing it. I did 21 takes for a video one time. 21 takes before I posted it. Can you believe it? I could have done 21 videos, but still I did 21 takes of one video. Be okay with quote unquote being a failure. It's okay. And finally, I want to say to you today, give thanks. Give thanks, because today is what you have. This moment is what you have. What I said is already in the past. It's already in the past. What I said a minute ago is already in the past. And the future has not yet come. In this moment where you have breath, where we can sit and we can speak and we can enjoy and we can experience, give thanks. Make sure you're always being aware also of the seasons of the persons that are connected to you, your family, your children. And if you are in tune with your season and you're always being vigilant, you will know what seasons they're in as well. And in that time, you can work congruently together to make sure everybody comes through their season successfully. So, as I wrap up today, I want to say to you, thank you so much for allowing me to express something that I believe could have only come from the Spirit. But I do believe, as it did for me, that it will do for you. It will bring us into a new revelation and understanding of what life really is. What life really is. It's not about whether you're rich or poor. It's not about if you're a doctor, you're an entrepreneur, you're a maid, it doesn't matter. You're the bus driver. It's understanding and maximizing your seasons and those stages of life to make sure that you do live a legacy, that you are empowered, and that you will live on forever. So I want to thank you so much. I appreciate you all. And I really do pray that this was a blessing. Dr. Harris, as I said, always thank you so much. I appreciate you immensely.